Camera. Happy Easter, everybody. This is the best day for the Christian faith. You know, I saw something really funny this morning when I woke up. I forgot who it was. Hey, Ryan, good morning. But he must have been Jewish because he's like, I've already tried to argue Hanukkah versus Christmas and why the Christians are killing us. They got Santa Claus, this mysterious guy leaving you presents and stockings filled with good stuff. Hey, Frank. And then they're killing us at Easter too. Like, this guy suffered, was crucified, and died. And how are we going to celebrate? And he picks up a big basket of candy and just says, candy for the kids. And games like hide and seek the eggs filled with chocolate and money. And then he shows a plate of what people are eating at Passover, which is like a real egg, not a chocolate egg. I thought it was really funny. Well, I want to talk about that. Real versus fake. So a lot of people struggle with the resurrection, right? This is the day that we celebrate our Christian faith. Because, well, it's kind of sad because someone had to live a perfect life, suffer, and die on our behalf. He died on my behalf to save me from my sins for all eternity so that I could live for all eternity. So that's why I'm so grateful for it. But how can we believe it, right? Especially if you're just surface level hearing about it, there's no way you're going to believe in the resurrection in the year 20,025, right? Well, let me offer you something. Let's read something from the Bible, and let me tell you a little story about it, okay? So since I'm here and not outside because I'm going to church this morning, I hope everyone's going to church, I'm going to pick up the Bible. We're going to open it to Isaiah chapter 53, okay? And we're going to read this chapter together. I want you to think about it, and then I'm going to tell you a little story about it. Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before him like a tender shoot, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. Like one from whom people hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him in low esteem. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering, yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. Yet who of his generation protested? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgression of my people he was punished. He was assigned a grave with the wicked, and with the rich in his death, though he had done no violence, nor was any deceit found in his mouth. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes his life an offering for sin, he will see his offspring and prolong his days, and the will of the Lord will prosper in his hand. After he has suffered, he will see the light of life and be satisfied. By his knowledge, my righteous servant will justify many, and he will bear their iniquities. Therefore, I will give him a portion among the great, and he will divide the spoils with the strong, because he poured out his life unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors, for he bore the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. That's Isaiah chapter 53. Why do I think that's so important to read on Easter? Because, a lot of people just go to church on Easter and Christmas, and then it's pretty hard for them to really believe maybe Jesus existed, Jesus rose from the dead. That's got to be the hardest thing, right? Yet, Jesus' life, death, and resurrection are all here in Isaiah chapter 53. And why is that so important? Well, Isaiah wrote this probably around 700 AD because his prophetic life lasted from 700 BC to about 686 BC. So about 700 years before Jesus was even born, this was written. And then you're going to say, no, Matt, no way. Well, before 1947, I wouldn't have proof for you. But in 1947, we found the Dead Sea Scrolls. We found the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947. And what was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls? Well, the best preserved and the only biblical book that was fully preserved in the Dead Sea Scrolls was the entire book of Isaiah. Prior to that, the only copy we had was 900 AD, 900 years after Jesus was born. So people can say, oh man, someone just made this up, just to sound like Jesus. It wasn't written 700 BC. Well, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the book of Isaiah was carbon dated using both scientific methods at least 100 BC. So it's from at least 100 years before Christ was even born. Yet this talks about Jesus' life, death, and resurrection, and the purpose of it, all in this one chapter, 100 years before his birth. That's fact, and to me, that's very strong evidence for the life of Jesus. So that's what I wanted to share this morning on Easter. It's not just some fairy tale that some good teacher or good prophet rose from the dead. He did rise from the dead, and he was going to, and it was in God's plan all along, and Isaiah told us in detail 700 years before his birth, before the birth of Jesus. So I hope you guys go to Easter today and really listen to the readings, the sermon, and think about what it means for you, what God did for you, what Jesus has done for you, and consider the rest of your life, eternal life, and turning it over to Jesus so that you can live with him forever in heaven. Okay? Because that's what his resurrection means today, and that's why Easter is the best day of the year. I see a comment here. I guess I don't take requests. Well, I was talking about just reading the Bible. So Coffee and Joint says it's very hard to believe. That's why most Christian historical scholars don't believe it. No, they do believe. They do believe. It is a very believable thing. Jesus' life and his death, everyone believes in. It's just the resurrection. But there is enormous amount of evidence for the resurrection. And what I shared with you today is just one of those pieces of evidence that have scientific proof behind it. So I hope you guys look into it, because the more you look into it, the more you have to believe it. There's no other thing. You can't believe anything else. There's overwhelming evidence for it. All right, everybody. I hope you have a great Easter. Thanks for joining. And maybe we'll see you tonight when I'm playing music. In my night lives, I play music. But in the morning, I just talk about the Bible. So if it's your first time here, or not, and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel and share it with others. I'd really appreciate it. All right, see you tonight, Ryan. Peace.